Hi, I'm Emmylou, the Creative Director with Heartfelt Creations. Today I'm bringing you some more flower shaping techniques using the Arianna Blooms. We're doing some really nice large flowers, some full flower centers that you can create all by yourself. So join me and we'll have some great fun trying out these new techniques. The first flower that I'm shaping is just an open version of the Arianna Blooms. I stamped it with a dark brown ink on just a pattern paper and then added some stamp paint around the edges for that orange reddish look. So to shape this flower, all you want to do is spray some water on the back. Now I spray kind of lightly. If you have excess water on the back, you can just kind of press that into paper. And then we'll go back and use our shaping tools. Now I'm using the 8mm from the stylus set, and I'll just really give this a lot of pressure at the tips of the petal. So this is the Arianna Blooms. There's so many different ways that you can shape this flower, and you receive completely different looks depending on how you shape that. So I'm just really pressing down at the tips of those petals, and you'll see that that kind of crinkles that petal, and then you'll bring this back up and just press down in the middle. That's all you'll do for this flower. And then I used 3 of the same layer when layering them together. Once this is dry, it's extremely stiff since you sprayed it with that water. For this flower, there's just a little bit different shaping effect. You'll see that this is more curved right in the center, and it doesn't have any distressed look in the petal tips. To achieve that, you will do it a little bit differently. Use a large stylus tip, this is the 8mm, and just start from the center and pull outward. That will give it a nice curve, and you'll do that on each of those petal tips. So you'll start in the center and pull towards the tip of the petal, and you'll do that on each one. Once you're finished doing that, that just breaks those paper fibers and makes that when you come over here, you can kind of just pull that petal and it curves it instead of giving it a crease. So we'll do that to each one of those. And then once you're finished doing that, you can go back and just press right in the center. So you'll get more of a clean look if you shape it like I just did the last flower, or you can add a little bit more of a crease into those petals and get more of a distressed look. Now another variation that's very quick and easy to do is using your vellum. This one was stamped with white ink and white embossing powder. And I just added some color on the back using a pink marker. You could use whatever color you like. But you'll see on this card how I just added 3 different sizes on top. So to do this one, to shape it, I just gave it a little bit of a curve on the back like we did on the previous flower. Just break the fibers of the vellum just a little bit. Just go back and forth just a couple times, starting in the center and pulling out. Now one thing that you'll want to do to make this have a completely different look is take hold of each side of the flower and just kind of pull it in like that. It reminds me of monkey ears, just grabbing the side and just kind of pulling it out like that, so the center is already curved or curled. So just pull at the edge of each petal and just have that center curling in. So you'll do that on each one of them, and that will create the base. And if you wanted to, you go back and just press down in the center. And so that is how I would have created the flower for this vellum card. These flower centers are so much fun to create, and you can do different variations. These centers were all cut from the Arianna Blooms die. So what I did is, this is the largest piece for the flower center, and I'm going to just give this a slight curl in the inside. We're not shaping the outer edges because this is going to go along the outer base of the flower center. I kind of pre-started this center a little bit. But you'll get the gist of how that works. So you'll just set this right on the inside. Every time another layer is coming together, I'll take my stylus and just press down in the middle, and you can kind of see that that just pulls it together. So pull the stylus out and lay this to the side, and then we're going to shape the remaining centers. I have 4 that I haven't put in the middle there. I have 3 attached already. So to shape these very quickly, and since these are going to be more in the center, I'm going to lay these all on a pile, and we're going to shape them all at once. So I'm going to hold them with my one finger and just kind of use a large stylus, just press down and pull those up. If you're doing a lot at once, it kind of makes that you get more done if you pile them on top of each other. So we'll do that to get a slight curve in each one of them. And then I'll pull them apart because the centers do need to be shaped differently depending on where they're going to be placed for the center. So we're getting more into the very narrow center, so I want to have a really tight curve. So you'll see how that just curves right up. So I'll add a little bit more glue on the bottom and pop this. Oops, I did this on the wrong side. I need to do this the opposite way. So let me just grab another one. Okay, so just because the yellow side is in the front, so we'll just bring this one this way and just pull that up like this. So the reason I wanted to do this the other way is because I want to have the yellow in the center. So if you do have a double-sided pattern and you accidentally shape the wrong side, you can just flip it around and just shape the opposite side. See, I'll just bring that into the center. Let me just flip this stylus around and use a larger tip. You'll use different size tips depending on which size you're working with. I'll bring this size in. See how that comes together? And then I'm going to only add one more. For this next one, since I shaped it on the wrong side, let's just go back and shape this really quickly on this side. So once we're finished with that, we're going to go right back in the middle. Just press down, pull those together, and then I'm going to cut this apart so that this twists together a little bit tighter. So we're going to bring this together. You see the back, it kind of shapes like a V. It's just a little bit tighter. So bring this in, and we'll put this down in the center. So this creates a really, really full flower center. I'm going to use a larger tip to just press that down, and then I'm going to go back with a small tip and just kind of pull those together. This is kind of rolling around a little bit. And then you can pull those up if you like. You can flick some of those petals back just a little bit. So you achieve completely different looks based on how many layers you add in there. What I would do then is go back and add like a bead or another flower center. Like here, we added some of the prills to the centers. So you can really add some quick and fun centers in those. These flowers were also cut with the Arianna Blooms, and they look completely different. They were stamped with a very light white ink and embossed, so that's very delicate. It reminds me kind of a Christmas flower. But you get completely different looks just depending on how you shape it, which is so much fun. With this one, for this flower, what I did is after these petals were dry, I went back on the reverse side. I took my stylus and I just kind of open it back up again, and so you kind of have like this little bit of crease in the tip, but it's still kind of open up. So that's after it's dry. Now to get this pleated look like we have on this flower, what you're going to do is take your spritzer. This is just water, or you could use a shimmer spray too if you wanted. Just spray a little bit of water. Just make sure that it's moist enough so that it pleats very nicely. I'm going to spray a little bit on the front yet because it's just a little, okay, that feels right. It's just kind of damp. If you feel like it's too wet, you can let it dry a little bit. But then I'll just grab that flower and I'll do kind of what I call a pleating technique and just push those petals together with your fingers, and it gives it a nice effect. So this is like a pleating technique. For this specific technique, I do like to pleat it down the flower pretty far, and then you just kind of press it together at the tip, and that will dry very stiff. So go to the next one. Again, just kind of pleat those petals. When you do this at first, it might feel a little bit awkward, but you are pinching that flower tip. So if you need a stress reliever, this is pretty good. You can just pinch your flowers. So you just continue doing that. Just kind of pleat it. There's not too much of a method to the madness. Basically, just bring that down, just kind of press it together. This one, let's just press that. Sometimes it kind of open up again if it's too wet. So I would just lay that aside to dry, and once that's dry, that flower will look like this. And you can kind of actually see how that would look added on, and then add another one of the same size to the back. So that's how we create that flower. You'll notice on this one, this flower has more like a pinched effect, but then the petal is kind of tucked in underneath. The way I achieve that is you again do that pleating technique. I did a couple of these on here already, so those are dry. But you'll just do the back and the front with just a little bit of water. You don't want to have your paper soaked. Just again, do just the pleating technique on the tip of the petal. So just kind of go back and forth like that. Just kind of push it together. And then once those are pleated together, just push that tip together and then kind of curl it in underneath. See that? So that tip is kind of curled in underneath. So once again, just take those tips and just pleat them together. If you've done any sewing, it's kind of similar to pleating material. So I'll just push that together. And you'll really kind of pinch that tip. And once that's pinched, just pluck it in, kind of fold it in underneath. And at first when it's kind of wet, that might feel a little bit weird yet. And that one's kind of coming up a little bit, so I could just kind of wad it up and push it underneath. But you'll see here that those are all dry and very stiff, so I can kind of bring it up again if I want. If you want to have a little bit more of a curl in those petals like you see here, after those petals are dry, I'm going to shape the ones that are dry. It's these three right here. You'll put it back on your mat and use a larger stylus and just press down in a circular motion right on the back of that flower, and that will pop those petals back up. You can, just press it down here. So here you have it with the leaves kind of folded back. This one just had the flowers with just the pleated look, but you can kind of see how those would look if you would just, fold those all together to make a fuller flower. So there's so many different techniques that you can use when shaping with the Arianna Blooms. You'll have so much fun incorporating these shaping techniques with your flowers. Please let me know what you'd like to see in some upcoming videos, and share your flowers on Facebook, or you can send them in via email. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.